Thank you all for coming. The meeting today will be the short term and the long term. As you know, in Barrington, first meeting, we agreed, the fishermen agreed, and we went along, okay, of course, that we wanted to go out and establish a $5.50 price. That the fishermen, a minimum price for the rest of spring. Well, that has worked a little bit. And actually what I thought should have been done was the boat should stay, left the boat to the wharf, tied up, and I think you would have got the $5.50 probably in a week's time. The price right now is $5.25, and $5.50. Most of the dealers are paying the $5.25. Some of them is bound determined to not budge from that $5, but I think eventually they will. The situation with, if the dealers are into a situation where they're losing control, and they don't want to lose control. Simply because, look what's happened. The fishermen never had a voice, so they brought in the product, not knowing the minimum price, and the dealer said, here, that's what we'll give you, $3.25. I don't believe that you guys can do that anymore. Will you get the $5.50 for a price of loss? Yes, you will. But here's the most important thing of all. We'll just say sometime in May, you're going to be confronted and you're going to be tested by the dealers. And they're going to try to knock you down off that $5.50 price. If you unite and stay strong and say, look, we're not going to go the rest of spring unless we get $5.50, I think it's a test of will, and it will show the dealers that they almost got to go along and pay the $5.50. That's what I believe. How do you do that? Join up. Basically, we met with one dealer last night. I've talked to about 7 dealers on the phone. That's my job. He thought that $3.25 was a wonderful price for you guys to have. He also runs the #2 lobster business in North America. They do $100 million in sales. I think that's ludicrous. I really do believe he's way out alone. So what I'm getting from him is, suppose you don't have this association. Suppose this don't work. And I don't like to think about that, because we got to make it work. The way he's thinking is, well, I can pay him $2.50 next fall. That's the information and the message he's sending me. And realistically, if something isn't being done, and I think this is the last show in town, this association, to have a voice for you fellas and bring this industry back to the lobster fishermen's hands. That's number one. That's the short part of it. The long term. See if I can explain this without getting in too much trouble here. The money that we have, that we're accumulating now, we want to build a cannery. And I felt that we have information about the government. The cannery is going to cost about $5 million. I'll go over this very slowly. We are supposed to, in our world, in the government's world, we're supposed to raise 20%, which would be $1 million. And the provincial government would ante up $2 million, and the federal would ante up $2 more million. Now, this cannery will not be owned by a corporation. It will belong to the communities that the fishermen live in. Only 35% of the shares will be sold. Can be sold to you, and no more shares other than 35% will be sold. This mega seafood situation will be able to handle swordfish, tuna, bar clams, unutilized species, Jonah crabs, anything that you fellas can land that corporation can make any money about, it will be able to handle it. And people have asked me, where will it be? Well, I'll tell you where it's going to be. Whatever municipality sweetens the pie, I've spoken to 2 municipalities. One municipality is land poor. I've asked them for the land. That's the Barrington one. They have 70 acres of land. But this mega seafood, it has to be it has to have a lot of salt water, a tremendous amount of salt water to make this work, and clean salt water. So it has to be alongside the ocean. I've talked to the Argyle one, and they didn't seem interested or not interested. They just thought that maybe they needed some time to look at this. Okay, and I'm sure there's going to be some questions about that one in this meeting today. I want to talk about Jeff Urban for a second or two. He is heading up the Lobster Council of Canada. Jeff Urban has got a lot of money that he's going to be able to play with, but I don't think that you guys are going to be helped by Jeff Urban. These lobster dealers are in every nook and cranny in the world selling their lobsters. I don't believe he can help them neither. But what he is going to do, and he said that in the Navigator, that he was going to review the lobster licenses. That means your lobster license should go up. I'm a firm believer that nobody should be paying to go to work. I don't care if you're paying $100 or $18.90 like they pay in District 34. I don't know where this Jeff Urban come from, but I don't like the direction he's going in. The other thing is, everything, we'll just say stacking licenses, like this man said. Black boxes aboard your boat. Logbooks. V-notching. I don't know if that's even going on now, but it shouldn't be going on. Everything is on the table. But you got to remember, we've only been in business 25, 26 days, and we ain't had time to catch a breath. And I got to tell you, if it wasn't 3 young women with us helping us, don't know where we'd be. And Mr. Troy, this guy here is a lobster fisherman. He goes on deck. And after I get done speaking, I want him to tell you a little bit of his story. There's a new bill out now called Bill 98, and it's pretty confusing. This guy's headquarters, and then you probably done a little research on it, didn't you? Would you tell us in plain words what this means?
To me, it means nothing.
Nothing?
Nope. But to the younger people, it does.
But how is it going to hurt the young people? Will it hurt the young people, or will it help them?
No. Won't hurt them.
I said. I thought that what I got from, I don't know how to research it. I thought that one of the things was you wouldn't be able to go as crew and have a share. You'd have to take a wage. Is that right?
Everybody on deck, yeah.
I said. Well, some of the guys, well, a lot of guys go on a share, and that's not gonna, they ain't gonna like that very much.
No, they're not.
I said.
But a lot of people you don't get work, they're the older ones.
I say. The government has introduced a lot of things in your fellows' lives. I've gone over a few of them, and they are chafing at the bit to introduce a lot more things in your life. And without a voice, you're not going to stop them. I've been going to meetings for 55 years. And years ago, I used to come into the meetings and I was really, I could chew off spikes, I know I could. The difference with this association, we are not affiliated with the government in any way. And we will never be that way. This is an industry association targeted for you fellas to see if we can help you get a better price. But remember, it's up to you guys. It is totally up to you guys to join the association and say, I'm going to be counted, and we're going to unite, and we're going to take back this industry. I'm going to turn this over to this young man, and afterwards we'll have concerns and comments. I'll try to answer any question you want to answer.
How many of you have been following along on YouTube, on the computer? Two here, okay. So not everybody's aware of what's going on. So we'll kind of start from the beginning. When this first was launched, and I heard about the first meeting that was going on, I didn't have anything to want to do with it. I wasn't interested in going to the meeting and hearing what was said, because there had been so many fishing meetings and so many things brought up that were supposed to help situations, not only from the ground fishery, but in lobster. So to me, it was just another fishing meeting. Well, they had the meeting, and my crewmate happened to go to it, and came back, and we went out within the next couple of days. And he said to me, he said, how come you weren't at the meeting in Barrington, right in your hometown? And I said, well, I said, I went to one before the season started, about the split season and all this kind of stuff, and I said, I just don't see purpose in it anymore. And he said, well, I think you need to take a little closer look, because if we don't do something now, we're going to be revisiting this winter next year. And so I sat and I thought about it a little bit, and I was kind of in a position where I was contemplating going out west myself to see what was going on, hearing good stories out there, and having a cousin that lived out there. He said, you know, there's opportunity. So that was kind of playing on my mind. But I think I finally got to a point where I said, you know what, there comes a time you got to want to step up and do something for your community. My two children are pretty much out of the nest and pursuing their own thing. And so it's just me and my wife still back home. So for us, it's more about giving back to the community that has given to us for so many years. And that's what my fight in this is all about, is trying to stick up for what we have. And also remembering where I came from. I have a fishing legacy in my family that goes back 5 generations. And I recall my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and my father. And then people love being fishermen. They love doing what they're doing. So to me, that's important, to maintain the legacy that those men and the men in my community growing up have set forth. So that's a little bit about where I've come from. In terms of with 1688, it has been a bit of a challenge. We are learning from all the various meetings. We've been up as far as Sandy Cove, we've been down to Chester and points in between, and we're looking at a couple other places that we'd like to get to down in Sambro and Eastern Passage area, and be able to talk to them about what we're talking to you today. And we're learning that there are many differences within our 2 districts, but yet a lot of similarities. And one similarity is that what we went through this past winter is not acceptable by anybody. I don't need to know your financial picture to know that this past winter didn't do you any favors. It didn't do us any favors. And I know there's a notion out there. This morning I was on a phone call from a guy from Lunenburg, and he said he'd had a call from a guy from Shelburne asking about the association. And he had a fear that you shouldn't get involved in that because District 34 is trying to dictate to District 33 what they're going to be doing, which is the furthest thing from the truth. That is not our goal here. And the fact of the matter is that you need us as much as we need you. And I think if for a moment people begin to put things aside and look at the bigger picture and the potential of what we're looking to accomplish by uniting together, the future can look very bright. When you look into things, one of the issues I think that was raised down here is with your bait issue. And I got thinking about that the other day, and I thought to myself, you know, if you're united, a large number, 80% is the goal we're kind of going at. We like the whole 1688, but we try to work in realistic numbers. If you have that many people together, there's a lot of things you can begin to dictate. Not only where price is concerned, but in how you work other aspects of the industry. And it's my goal, personally, to see that both districts get the same benefits. That is my goal. It isn't about one place getting more than the other, and it shouldn't be that way. We all make the same living from the same water. So I see things like that. I see in terms of advantages that we can gain in bait, we can gain in fuel, and things like that. Things that are more tangible to all of us, that we can accomplish with power and numbers. And we've shown, as James mentioned to you, that we can take a little bit of credit for what's happened with this price thing. Now, some people will use the argument that the price naturally goes up this time of the year. And there is history that does support that. But last year, we didn't see that happen. And this year, we see spikes happening faster than normal. I think within 10 days, there was like three increases on the price. Something I want to share with you that came across to me in the last couple of days. And this piece of paper here is from the North Atlantic Lobster Coalition, week of January the 9th, Market Demand and Supply Update, Massachusetts Report. And when talking about the price, first of all, it says the quality. It says the quality of lobster overall is very good. Just about everything is shippable. So there you go. First off, they're telling us everything's not shippable, and there's a hit on the price for that, when all along it is. It says price is expected to hold at current levels. There is an attempt in Nova Scotia by fishermen to try and drive up the boat price. Fishermen will be trying to raise the price by holding out their product for $5.50 Canadian price. They are currently getting $3.50 to $3.75 Canadian. This was to begin at midnight, Tuesday, January the 10th. If this happens, it will affect the supply into the Boston market. It could dry up 30 to 40% of the supply. It is not known how successful this will be. They are referencing 1688. That's who they're talking to. They're talking about what we're doing and starting. That was back on the 9th of January. Let's fast forward 2 weeks later, in which they discuss supply. Inventories are being maintained using mostly Canadian product. Some Canadian fishermen in Nova Scotia are still holding product rather than selling to their dealers, hoping to push the price up. And it has worked to some degree. So that dispels the notion of people saying we can't take no credit. No, we're not taking all the credit. We understand historically how things have worked. But this particular place in Boston is saying what those people are doing up in Nova Scotia is making a difference. It's having some form of an impact. And what you need to understand here today is that we have been able to accomplish that with a fraction of the people we need to get. That small percentage has had that kind of an impact so far, enough to get noticed. It says prices is expected to hold or edge upwards. The quality is very good. Now remember, it's only the Canadian product that's coming into the market. The quality is very good, and the Canadian price delivered into Boston is rising. But yet, in some places, they want to put a call on these lobsters. Well, hold on here. The coalition in Massachusetts is saying that the quality is very good, and they're saying that the market is being supplied pretty well exclusively by Canadian lobster. Something's not adding up. Why are some buyers around here putting a call on lobster prices? Why aren't they putting a call on prices in the first of the season, when there is soft shell and bad quality lobsters? See, there's a lot of stuff going on that side of the road. They got their issues. But you know why they're a bit better than us? Because they've learned to be able to set their differences aside and to stay together. And they've been making money for a long, long time. At your expense and at my expense. With regards to Bill number 98, and I've had some people try to research it. I can't say that is my forte. But I don't see nothing good coming out of this. nothing that would be a benefit. Of my understanding, what people are telling me is that at some point in time, a license holder is going to have to make up his mind that he's going to have to join something. Because the government, little by little, as we see, they are wanting control of everything that we do. In this document alone, over 45 times, the word minister is spoken. That's a lot of time in a short four-page document. So they're looking for more and more control. Some are saying that possibly there's a reference of this being set up for us to have to be under the laws of the Council of Canada, accreditation.
That ain't gonna happen.
There's so much language in there that is unexplainable. It's hard to really pick this thing apart. Terms, unless you go and Google everything, what it means, it takes time to read this. But nonetheless, there's stuff going on that we're not having no control of. We're not being conformed to or asked to discuss. Apparently this thing's been in for about 2 years, till 98. And so now it became more to the forefront. In 15th of December, this was introduced. And from what I understand, is set to be tabled in legislature when they convene back in the spring. Of course, we'll learn more as we go along. We're looking into things and trying to get answers to this more and more. And as we discover things, we will post on our Facebook and on our impending webpage that's coming out in the next little while. So I guess we're at a point in time where, people are having to make decisions, and people are asking and wondering, is this the right way? Is 1688 the answer? Well, we can't definitively say that we are the answer to all our problems. What we can say is that we have the beginnings of a group of people who see the bigger picture, who see that by joining forces, we can make a difference. As I've already showed you in a market report that has stated a difference was made with that group of people. Just imagine, if you will, allow your mind to wander for a moment, and that we could go and have 80%. How much more powerful we could be. I don't think we really realize it. Our industry is a supply and demand industry. If you look at the oil industry, same concept, supply and demand, they control the price. We have, for a long, long time, allowed the people who are speaking of the demand to control and tell us, the supplier, what the price is going to be. Things are the way they are. I'm sure it's no different down here than it is back in '34, in which young people are moving out west at a very alarming rate. In talking to one fisherman this morning from Woods Harbor, a very credible man, very respected man in his community, who recently had to let one of his men go because he just couldn't afford to eat. And this guy was a guy that would really try hard to keep this man aboard. And he could only go so far. And the guy knew it, and he respected him, but he had to look after his family. He had to make a decision for himself and his family, and the only option for him was to try a life out west. 3 more, I was told this morning, are leaving within this week. This is not an uncommon thing now. This is becoming the norm more than the exception.
It's 18 gone in the last week.
In the Woods Harbor, Cape Cod?
Harbor, Cape Cod,
In that area, yes. And I've heard reports of people in Yarmouth. And I'm sure maybe down in these parts, you guys are starting to hear and know of people who, if they're not gone, they're considering it. Because one thing about it, numbers don't lie. 325 does not lie. And I will tell you this, I cannot disclose my source, but I'm telling you that if this does not work, you're getting at least 325 next year, and maybe less. That is in stone. You recall this meeting when it comes next fall, and if this don't work, and remember what I said, because it's coming. Now what that does is, if this doesn't work, they pretty much got us over a barrel. There's no expecting that down the road, we're not just talking about next fall, we're talking about the years after that. Where do you see yourself if that's what happens? That's very much the reality that we have facing us. Are you going to be able to get a crew? If you're a captain and a boat owner, are you having a hard time finding somebody now? Because I'll tell you, in District 34, they're having problems. Problems so much so that there's people, the captains are kind of getting together and they're working schedules so that guys from other boats can come and fill in on boats so they can go. But when we get around the 1st of April, or the middle of March, when guys start putting gear back in, those men have to go back to their boats. So what's those captains going to do? If they're scrambling for men now, what's going to happen when it comes next fall? And we know that we could be looking at a $325 price. There are guys who went last fall in District 34, made $6,000. And they catch, some of them catch pretty decent lobsters. And those are some decent paying jobs too. This is a good end. This is the reality of where our industry has gotten. We have to take some responsibility, if not all, for where we've gotten, because we've allowed it to come to this point. Because we've never contested anything. We've never contested, we've just accepted it, what's been thrown at us, and allow things to just be, just be taken right on top of us. In your area here, and I think the same applies to 34, when you're looking at your license, the value of your license, especially you older gentlemen who are on the back end of your careers and maybe thinking about retirement in the next 2 years or 10 years. What's the value of your asset right now? Has it got any value? Is it going to keep depreciating if this price that we saw in the fall is able to stay? So when that man told you that guy we talked to was happy with us getting the $325, he's not lying.
He was there last night.
I was there, and I see the expression on his face. He don't give a rat's ass about you or me. They don't. They are one of the greatest form of predator you're ever going to meet. And they will eat us alive if we allow it to continue. So many, there's people in our area, and I don't know if this applies down here, but there's people who have gotten into this in the last 3 or 4 years, that even if they wanted to get out now, they would still be left with surmountable debt. The number of the debt is not what's important, because it varies from person to person, and how everybody handles it. There's all kinds of things that are different with it. But debt is still debt. And if you got into this years ago, to have that as a retirement asset, you can't be very happy seeing where this is going. So what we're saying is that it's not too late yet. If we band together, band our ideas together, we can come up with something that can get this thing turned around. I don't see any other option. I've had plenty of people say to me, what's the plan? What's the plan? We want to get on board, but we don't see the plan. Aside from that, I can't say that I got anything more I can say to somebody right now. I refuse, and I'm sure James refuses, to tell somebody something just to appease them so they'll come on board. That's no good. Because we're just going to be made out to be a fraud later. I'd rather be truthful and tell you what we have on the table right now is what we have. But we're learning information all the time. I've learned more in the last 3 weeks about this industry than I knew in 27 years before. Daily, stuff like this is coming to my attention. People are talking. The light is being shed on what's been happening and what's been going on. So to those people who are sitting on the fence and are still not sure, you stay there. And we're going to do our best to keep learning about stuff and to find everything to try to answer those questions. But at some point, you're going to have to make a decision for yourself and for your family and for your community. What are you going to do? You're going to roll over? Or are you going to stand up and fight? I think our young people deserve to be fought for. I think our communities deserve to be fought for. And that's why we're here doing this. This is why we've been doing this for 3 weeks, taking time from our families, from our communities, and sharing the idea of what we can accomplish through the strength of numbers. So we're going to allow you guys now to have a chance to ask some questions, some concerns that you have. If you have questions about what we're doing, feel free to ask anything. We'll do our best to answer them, and we'll see what we come out of it.
This guy's last night, Stephen told him several times, listen here, we don't trust you. And you fellas know they're playing a lot of games of mistrust. I've seen both sides of the fence. Did I do everything perfectly? No, never. Did I play my little dirty rotten game? Yes, I done that when I was in business. You want to believe I did. When I got out of lobsters, I was dangerous because I was going to have lobsters. But you know what? This man here sold me fish, right there. And you know what? I never pleased everybody, but I believe there was a lot of guys can stand up and say, you know what? That guy was a pretty fat guy. Do I know what I'm talking about? You want to believe I know what I'm talking about. You fellows, I'm going to tell you, if you fellows don't do something about this and have a voice and demand something for your product, God knows what these dealers is going to do. We got a lot of American influence on our soil right now. Any major lobster company is on our soil. And I'm not passing a buck. I think they are controlling things to their advantage. And this guy last night kept saying, in other words, you fellas should be pleased to take $3.25 for your lobsters. Is that right? $3.25. Well, you know what? I think last spring there were 670 odd boats in arrears to the Nova Scotia Loan Board. I don't know what the number is now, but I'm sure it's never decreased. I'm sure there's an increase. And you're not going to pay for your rigs. You guys might all own your own rigs and stuff like that and be able to go for $3.25. I'm not saying that, but majority of the people, especially your younger people, cannot pay that way for $3.25 a pound. Can't be done. Anyway, I've had my say. It's your policy's turn. And if you have a better idea, cut that one. I want to hear it.
I'm one of the guys that owns their own rig, so I'll make.
But you should have a comment or two. You really should.
I'm just, like a lot of the rest, just sitting back and see what's happening. I've only had to rack it 50
Do you think
years,
we're going to sit back?
Yeah, after 50 years.
Huh?
After 50 years, I'm going to sit back and see how it goes.
Do you think that we warrant people signing up to this association? Do you think we're credible? You can say anything you want to say, you know?
I don't judge anybody,
Okay, gotcha.
because I don't want anybody to judge me.
Okay.
So where do you see things going, sir, if we stay on this current path?
If we keep doing what they're doing, going to hell in a handbag.
So you do agree that something, we have to take somewhere, somebody's got to start something.
Somebody's got to start something. So I went through that ground fishery, watched that go to hell in a handbag, and I helped do that myself, you know, so. Scallop fishery, followed that along, seen where that went, that's where it is now. That stuff all ended up in a quota.
Where did that happen? In the back rooms?
No, that happened, the fishermen done it themselves.
True.
We had 4,600 long line licenses and hand line licenses in this area at one time. Right now, and it's a double-edged sword here between the government, set the trap, they done all the high-level meetings of quota. And the fishermen said, this is the way to go. I'm going to have enough fish that I can go fishing, my own fish, to do what I want with. But they didn't really realize that they were trusting in selling their soul to the devil. That means the government. I went to a meeting, several of them. I was the only fish dealer. I was the only fish dealer that would go to the meetings.
One thing that I had about that is people owning their own fish in a natural resource. How in hell could that happen?
How? Because the government set the trap, high-level meetings, and said, this is what they'll do. Greed will overcome.
Right.
Dangled the baby.
And we'll set the trap, and they're greedy enough to sign on. And once a couple of them signs on, we got them. You know how many boats we have in our quota that can go fishing for and get 6 or 7 trips? We have basically 7 boats left out of 4,600 license holders. We had a handliner in Woods Harbor, and that's the only license he had, Clark Dixon, and the first guy they put out of business, the most effective conservation measure to catch fish, handlining, they put him out of business. Gone. 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 This man had, well, how many? Clark got 5 children or 4?
3.
3?
3.
3? Okay, put him out of business. 2 years later, he was gone. Are we gonna let that happen to this lobster fishery? That's right way ahead.
But you see, when they started out with the quotas, they gave you enough to make a living, didn't they? When you first
Yeah, but
started.
then every year they kept cutting it down.
And every year they kept taking.
That's right.
That was their plan.
And that'll end up with the lobster.
That was
fishery
their
that
plan.
Now,
That was
it-
their plan.
it
Who had a
wasn't good
voice?
at that time.
Who had a voice in the government, as far as the DFO is concerned in the fishery? Who had the voice? The draggers had the voice.
Guilty.
You guys never had a voice.
I didn't want to go there, but that's where I was.
Guilty.
National City. Master for 30 years.
Yeah, National Sea, I can talk about them fellas all day long too.
The first, when it came out, their
The what?
part of the cod fishery up north was 225 metric tons, 225,000 metric.
Yes.
Couldn't catch it. So what did he do? He built bigger boats.
Put grinders aboard.
Not just leave the grinders out, he made bigger boats, bigger nets. When it got so you couldn't make a trip, he put a bigger net on it. And the last net that I towed behind my boat had 42 fathom wingspan, 42 fathom opening, and was 650 feet long.
Well,
Now you take that mouth going through, mid-water, wherever he wanted to go. So what did he do with the lobster fishery? He started out with wooden traps, wire traps, PEI traps, hurricane traps, bigger boats, 2 licenses, go as far as they can go. I seen it.
Oh,
The fishery.
I
It's happening.
I definitely think that they got to do something of the way they fish, the lobster fishing, I agree with that. But who won out the ground fishery? The guys that had lobbyists that went to Ottawa, they was the guys that won out. They did. But the guy like Clark Dixon that had the handline and feeding 3 children, they put him out of business in 2 years.
Exactly. And the hook and line would never hurt the fishery.
And believe me, the government's got something in store for you guys in this lobster industry, let me tell you. And it isn't in your favor, or the young people's favor, I should say.
There, young people.
So what do you see, sir, as a potential, like,
The
solution?
impact on the industry has to, how would I say, take a little back seat. Less product on the market,
no.
isn't the price gonna come up? You put more on,
You will
I
have
can't see
it,
it coming up.
you will have a chance to vote on that, sir, if you want to. And like I say, everything is on top of the table, and we're gonna set up a whip. And everything we're gonna do, and everything we have done, is gonna be on that whip. So you can't say, you know what, that damn James Wood lied to me. No, never. You look on the web, you do your thing, and I'll explain to you where we've been and where we're going. This young lady over here has been with us all the way through. She's a gal that's gonna set it up. And we're not here forcing you to do anything against your will, but we're here to give you the information. Provincial Minister of Fisheries, we are gonna meet with him. And I'm gonna enjoy this one. Guaranteed.
See, we also feel, or at least, I know it's my sentiment on it, is that with the more on board, the more heads on the committee sort of deal, thinking in on this, the more chances you have of getting things resolved. I by no way means think I know everything, because I don't. I've learned, like I told you, I've learned a lot in 3 weeks here that I didn't know before. And I fully realize there's people a lot smarter and been at this thing a lot longer than I have that have something to offer. And we feel that by bringing everybody together, and bringing forth ideas. And that can be done various ways. You know, not everybody likes getting up to a mic or something like that. If you wouldn't mind writing your idea out on a piece of paper or typing it out on the computer if you're into that, and going from there. But until we're able to bring everybody together to do it, it makes it hard to do it because you got nothing to back it. Your idea, you may have a certain idea, could be the idea, but if you don't have enough people backing you, they're not going to pay. Nobody's going to pay attention to you. DFO, lobster buyer dealer, whatever you want to call it, they're not going to pay attention because you don't have no power. The bigger the numbers. Here's an illustration of what I'm trying to get across to everybody. If you look at our reigning provincial government, the New Democrats, for years, always the third in command sort of deal, third on the totem pole. Their ideas never changed very much over that period of time. Some modifications here, they tend to kind of a little more liberal, you know, they would ease off a little, kind of that thing. They kept going along like this. So anyway, we were stuck with the old establishment. Does that sound familiar in this industry, the old establishment? So we kept going, we kept going. Finally, this past election that went by, this last one, they finally got enough people to say, you know what, enough of the old establishment. Enough of it, enough of it. We're tired of the scandal. I don't care if you were a liberal or you were a Tory, there's a scandal in your party. So don't go, people in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones when it comes to politics. What happened was the NDP finally got enough people on board, in our county, Shelburne was one of them, that said, you know what, I think it's time to give them people a chance and a voice. Now, depending on your perspective of our government, they've either done very well or they haven't done good at all. That's totally an individual opinion thing. But the point is, once they got the numbers, meaning the power of the seats, they become a majority. And when you have the majority, you can impose your will. And that is what we're trying to tell people through the power of numbers. No, we don't have if you came here today thinking that one of us was going to give you a magical statement on how we're going to turn it around, well, you came disappointed.
No, because we need these guys.
Because we can't give you a magical statement. It's not there, it doesn't exist. The statement is this: you need to unite. And when you have that, then and only then do you have the power to do something. Until then, they're just going to laugh at us. Right now, truth be told, we don't have the numbers. They're laughing at us. They're still laughing at us. But they've been put on notice. Don't think they haven't. This guy we met with last night, he didn't have to come down and see us. What were we to him? He obviously thought something. We were supposed to meet the night before, that didn't work out, and he still kept the appointment for the next night. So he must think there's something going on that his end of the table isn't really like it.
What's going on? He don't like losing control. That's the story. You heard what he said. He said, well, you got paid, you know, a fair price for your losses. Oh yeah, and everybody is in the arrears, and everybody's bank account don't have money in, and everybody got a fair shake and a good price, a fair price for lobsters. In other words, he's braced up for next fall. Probably not in 325. It could be 225. Who the hell knows? You got to remember one thing. If you don't have a voice negotiating with the dealers, and you don't have a voice as far as government is concerned, guess what? You're going to be in some serious downward business. That means a lot of guys are not going to make it. This has never been tried before. Never. I'm just going to talk one little bit about the advisory board. Everybody thought the advisory board was a good thing, and at one time it was a good thing. But 20 years ago it changed. It did change. The advisory board got bogged down with government issues. We are not doing that. We will never do that. We will negotiate with the dealers as long as it's going to be helpful to you people and the communities. We will negotiate with the government as long as it's going to be helpful to your community and the lobster fishing. That's the way it's going to be. And that will never change, not as long as we're in business. This girl, this lady's husband, she goes he goes down deck. This guy here goes hard on deck. Let's see, I've been going to meetings for 55 years, so you know how old I am. I've been around this industry for a few days. Don't know it all, not perfect, but I know some things. But the lobster dealers can't bullcrap me, and I'll never fall prey to the government's foolishness. Never.
Last night at the meeting, we were told that they could have paid $5. But, he said,
Didn't have to.
instead of buying 30 million pounds, I'd only bought 18.
You didn't have to, he said.
Well, why sell him all the extra for nothing?
He said he didn't have to pay the $5 because the fisherman, he knew the fisherman was going to sell our lobsters to him for $3.25.
He said he could now buy them for 10 if he wanted to, any price, but he wouldn't be able to take the volume. So what does that tell you? $10.
Playing games.
In the last of it, he said, if that price is brought up, about the price to the fisherman, once more, this meeting's over. James said, I guess the meeting's over. No.
And then he wouldn't leave, and then we still stayed and talked for half an hour. He was just,
He was
We
on the
got to him
fact,
a little bit.
he was on the fact finding mission.
yeah, you can come up here.
He was on the fact finding mission.
They are terrified that this might happen.
Do you want this? Do you want
They're
this?
terrible.
No, there ain't going to be no mite. This is going to happen. Mr. Gorham, no mites and no can'ts. This will happen. We're just getting warmed up a little bit now. I think this spring this system will work. Okay? We have to talk to the dealers, which we've already started. Of course, they're throwing cold water on it. I know better. They've got lobsters. They haven't got enough lobsters to see them through the winter. I know that. I've done my homework. But the crunch will come if the price goes below $5.50. Is the fisherman united enough to say, no, we're not going. We won't go. We have to save our community.
Well, I agree with you, and, you know, as I mentioned before I got here, I live here part-time, and I live in the States, and in the conversations I've had about your efforts, you know, there are associations in the States for produce, for agricultural products that do exactly what you're proposing, and they're successful. They do it for oranges, they do it for raisins, they do it for beef, American Beef Council. There are a lot of examples, and it's legal in the States. You can't do this type of stuff except for agricultural products in the States, but it works. So, you know, the question really isn't if what you want to do can work, because it can. The question is if you can get everyone together to make it work.
Yeah.
So your friend that you were telling me about earlier there, what was it again that he had said you taught him?
Well, I actually went to school at Vanderbilt, and I had an economics professor there who was the chief bureaucrat for the Federal Trade Commission. This is the agency that does all the work to identify price fixing, collusion, those type of things. He had a team of economists working for him, about 8. And if there's a person you want to talk to in the United States about how do markets work and how do you control pricing, it would be this guy. He's the guy. And when I called him up and told him about this, he was so interested, he said, let's have lunch. This was last Thursday. So I had lunch with him, and I told him all about you. And I asked him, I said 2 things. My question was, can it work? You know, because get past the question of, can they get together to get people in agreement? Because if you assume that yes, they can, then the question becomes, can they actually do what they hope to do? And after we talked about it, his answer was yes, they can. They can improve the prices that they receive. And there's some rules in the academic world, you know, they have rules about, well, you have to do this, and you have to be careful about that, but the short answer was yes, you can. And the real question is, can you get the people together to work together to make it happen? Because it can be done. And that was very encouraging for me. I knew I was coming up here this week. I'm going to be up here for a while now. And so I was excited to come to the meeting and just, you know, kind of tell you, look, you know, in the theoretical world, you know, what you're proposing works. The question is just really doing it. You know, to me, it's like a lot of people standing around a house on fire. You can have a bunch of politicians and a bunch of academics over here arguing whether or
Lots
not
of
this,
dealers, lots of dealers.
whether this is a one hose fire or two hose fire, and maybe we should put the water on the left side of the house or the right side of the house. Meanwhile, you got neighbors show up with buckets and they say, I don't know, but I'm putting this fire out. Now, they may lose a couple houses, but they're going to fix a lot more houses than the ones that get lost by everyone standing around arguing about whether or not, you know, how the right way to go about this is. So, you know, as I look at what you've done on YouTube and I hear your meetings and I hear you getting people together, you know, I personally believe you are on the right track, and I believe what you propose can work. It's just whether or not you can get everyone on board to be in support of it.
Like back years ago, when I run my company, and done all the buying and selling, I had some pretty good years. And we get into a situation with the dealers and, well, we'll pay this, we'll pay that. I used to say, listen, this is my idea, and I still maintain this work. A 325 lobster, a 550 lobster, there's going to be the same amount consumed by the consumer. And I used to say to them, look, this is how this works. The fisherman has to have a fair price to maintain their business and their crew members. Me as a dealer, I have to make a profit on your lobster, and you've got to satisfy the consumer. So it don't make a difference if you are paying the fisherman $3.25 or $5.50, the same amount of lobsters is going to be consumed. That's been proven so many times, and it was proven again this year. Like, people, here's what's happened. The fishermen have lost their industry. You've lost the industry because you've never had a voice. Like I said about the ground fishery. Who got all the quota? You want to hear a good one about National Sea? And this guy probably can correct me or not. They had a plant in Lockport burnt down. Okay? So they went to the federal government, National Sea did. And we'll build back. We will build it back. I mean, that was the main thing where people could go and get a job. Okay? The National Sea in Lockport and that surrounding areas. Okay? If we get 26% more quota of this ocean, we'll build back Lockport. That was my understanding. Guess what? They done it. The government built back the plant in Lockport with very little money from National Sea. And what was it, 2 or 3 years down the road, they closed it down. How long was they open in Lockport after they built back?
I really don't know, 3-4 years.
There you go. There you go, gone. Now, National Sea, let's talk about National Sea. They had,
So with Clearwater, didn't they?
I don't know,
Yep.
might have, well, they give it to Clearwater.
Yeah, more or less, yep, I'll agree with you there.
Like, years ago, we had 4 or 5 major companies, like FPL Newfoundland. They had both governments pouring in money to them. They had H.P. Nicholson boys. They had 2 governments pouring money into them. National Sea, of course, and there was one other one. I just forget who this was.
Fishery product,
Huh? Fisheries.
fishery product.
Yeah, they had both governments pouring money into them, big valve of money, okay? You know why National Sea now? They don't have a boat. They don't have a boat right now, do they?
Don't have a boat, don't have a quota.
There you go. Where'd the quota go to? They handed it down to Clearwater, and Clearwater's been selling it off.
Yep, exactly.
But they never give the fishermen a chance. Hey, they never give back the fish to the fisherman who really owns this resource. National Sea should never ever think that they own this resource. It's a fisherman's ocean. So you want to have some horror stories, I can tell them to you.
The whole industry is taking advantage of you because, meaning the fishermen and the harvesters, because you're not organized.
We don't have a united front.
That's why, yeah.
And as long as that goes on, we will always fail.
You'll get exactly what you've got.
That's all I got to say today, gentlemen.
Media gentlemen, you got something you want to ask?
There's always questions you like to ask, right?
Always something. I've been following the story because some of our other papers have been covering as well, but what's your membership up to now?
Oh, around 700.
And it's 700.
And in the two
It's
districts?
it's hard to monitor.
Okay,
It grows every day.
yeah.
It grows every day. There's 5 of us, 6 of us signing up people. There's other people like Will Scott. He's going around canvassing all the fishermen in the Yarmouth area. He brings us checks. Then we have the mailboxes, so it's really hard to monitor. And that's voting members. Then we have the companies that's sending money voluntarily. We haven't even had a chance to go after them people and ask for a donation. But they're non-voting members. Voting members is somewhere around 700. But before the day goes, that is going to change because I know on my way home, I'm going to pick up about 7 checks. So that's the way it's going. And it's hard to monitor. It's very hard to monitor.
Do you know how many fishermen there are in the 2 fishing districts?
1688, that's what the number is. License holders. Well, actually, I don't know whether I'm right or wrong because I can explain this one to you. I know there's 985 and 34. Erica went to Halifax to get the information about 33, and they told her it was 703.
Yeah.
And they told me in Yarmouth it was 705. So there's 2 guys maybe missing that somewhere.
We'll check, see if all the boats is in when we get out.
Hey, what?
We'll check at home, see if all the boats is in.
So we didn't pick that name. The name, as you know, the government has a finger in all pies, right? So that's the name that they told us that we could have. 1688 Professional Lobster Fishermen's Association. We wanted to have it the Lobster Fishermen's Association. That would be very appropriate. But we're stuck with a name, 1688. You heard what the man said. Any more questions?
Do you think the price is going to stay up in the spring? And what happens if it doesn't?
What happens if it doesn't?
It only takes one guy to lead the wharf and then everybody leaves, you know that.
Well, I'll tell you what I really truly believe. It is sincerely up to you guys to show a good united front and good leadership. That's what I think.
Let's just say that they are with this association, right? And say that somehow the price did go down. And say one boat left from this association, what would the association do then?
Haven't got to that point yet.
So you decided.
I would have to say that we're going to have to work on that. I mean, when you join an association, don't get me wrong, if you come, we're not forcing you to join the association, but you should remember when you join that, you've got to be united.
Yeah.
And
I agree
I
with you
don't know
on
how,
that.
I don't want to, I mean, listen, there's some hard decisions to be made out there. There is. But you know in your own mind, once that guy breaks the rank and he does go out, guess what? There's going to be a lot more guys following. And we don't need that.
No,
We do
you
not
don't.
need that.
And I understand that, you know, if you're gonna join an organization, you stay with it, right?
Yes.
But some of these guys
I
going
don't-
through real hard times, right? You know,
I don't even have a vote, a chair of that association, so the members, the board has the vote and it will be brought up.
I think that's why earlier I tried to emphasize, because this is being covered on YouTube, a lot of stuff is, like today we had to repeat a lot of things for you folk that hasn't been seeing any of the meetings, so we had to kind of go back into that. But there are people who are a little more up to speed and have been asking very viable questions. I don't think it's a case they don't want to get on board with us, but because so many things in the past has come down, they don't know what to trust anymore. I've heard comments where they'll say, we agree with what you're doing, we like what you're doing, but there's that but there and there's a question, and in a lot of cases, we just don't have that answer right now. To that, I would say it would be wiser if a person is sitting on the fence, still with that unanswered question. I think you're kind of better to just kind of stay there for a little bit more. Would we love to have you on? Yes, we do. But if you get too many people into your association, still, like if you're tugging and pulling from everywhere, you're going to spend a lot of your time trying to mend over stuff within the association. When you're united, united means you're united. It is with a conviction and with a compassion to want to get things done. And so when you're talking about people breaking rank, yes, it's a possibility. You can't sit here and say, well, oh no, that's not going to happen here. Well, yes, it can. But I think if you bring your members in based on when they're ready to come in, when we've been able to answer some questions. And this is why I keep saying, the more people that come on, the more opportunity we're going to have to maybe find the answers for some other people, right? I'm sure, sir, you have a lot to offer. You've been in the fishery yourself, you've seen, and you may have something you could come to me on the side and say, Troy, you ever think about this? And I could pass that along. That could be a light bulb moment for somebody. I didn't think of it, but you did, and you were in the association. So I think it's a process that we're looking at doing. It's not, some people seem to think this thing fell out of the sky and it was all put in place and everything was structured and we got offices here and he's always been in his place, she's always been, no, this isn't how it happened. You know what I'm saying? So we're trying to preach our message, but at the same time, get things put in place. And I think you just got to be patient with some people for now. Don't burn bridges with them because they need us. Whether they realize it or not, they do need us, and we do need them.
There will be a test of unity. It will be. The timing was right, though, to start this. It should have been, don't get me wrong, it should have been started about 5 years ago. We were waiting for the advisory group to see what they could do. And a lot of fishermen in both areas, 33 and 34, and by the way, you guys was never invited to 30, 34, never. You were never invited. Actually, this association has made some inroads and some history here. Will you be tested? Yes, you will be tested. It will be a test of will and strength. Let's just hope everybody, I think we're getting the message through to a lot of people. And probably some guys are not going to join. You're not going to get everybody, I don't believe. I wish we could. I'd be very excited if we could. But probably them guys will say, well, you know what? That association is on the money, and we can't go for under 550 this spring. And I'm looking for a hard old spring this spring, not because I don't want it needed this way, but we had a lot of fine weather and the boats fished, like you say, 24/7. The water temperature was warm. We had a lot of spring lobsters that they caught this winter. And what's going to happen home is they're not going to be able to fish in the deep this spring because of the price of fuel and bait and stuff like that. They're going to have to fish around the shore. And that brings more pressure on that inside area. And there's only so many lobsters to catch on the inside net area. That's all it'll be doing. So it'll be a test of unity. Let's find out what's going to happen.
I'm going to sit on the fence. I want to see my
Yes,
grandfather
you're right.
on the street.
We're not forcing nobody to do anything.
That was all. I follow it. I follow every things on the news or wherever I can find.
Right on. We appreciate that. Yeah.
Sunday night, somebody said there was a meeting Monday.
I don't
was
think-
on the phone, I was on, found it on the internet.
I don't think I'd have gone lobster fishing if I don't have a boat or license no more. I don't think I'd have gone this one. I'd have said to my crew, you better get another captain. I'm not going.
Oh, I gotta go. Don't have a syringe with salt water in it. I could have salt water in my bags.
No.
So you're just a die-hard fisherman.
Just a die-hard fisherman.
Yeah. Yeah.
50 years.
There you go.
Anyway, is it, like I say, your comments is taken seriously. If you have a better idea, if you have something that we can work with, that is going to energize the association, we want to have them there. Somebody got to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. I'll adjourn it. You have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Second?
Go ahead.
And your name, sir?
Boy, David.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully we was able to shed a little bit more light on what we're doing and where we want to go.
Thank you for coming.
Well, you're sitting on the fence.
Comment, very good.
Oh, yes, well, everybody knows that.